Afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. We've got quite a few people attending, so just while we wait, feel free to pop in the chat function, say hello, tell us a bit about your business. Feel free to put your contact details in. Also make sure that if you're putting anything in the chat, send it to all panelists and attendees, just so everyone can see your messages, your contact details. Obviously, if we were at face-to-face events, you'd be able to network prior to the presentation. So we don't want you to miss out. As we said, feel free to pop in the chat function, say hello, introduce yourself. We might have time to say hello to a few people before we get started, but don't let that put you off. Feel free to pop in the chat function, say hello, introduce yourselves. Let us know what you've got planned for the weekend. That would be great. So just while we give it another minute or so, Emma, I probably know the answer, but I'm not going to assume. What did you do at the weekend?
You can assume, and you'd be right. I did work at the weekend. Kayleen and I have this running private joke about what I do at the weekend, and I work. Kathy and I have been busy behind the scenes since lockdown 1, launching our new joint company, 24 Degrees, which we'll tell you about shortly. But what that means is I spend most weekends planning and plotting, and then I excitedly ring her and go, I've just had a brainwave, and I do that most weekends.
I love that. And we heard in yesterday's event what Kathy got up to. So I'm sorry if you didn't attend, you missed out. But we've got another one, which we're so excited about with Kathy and Emma later on in the month. So you can come along and see what they got up to then. I promise it's not all work that they get up to. So hi, Karen from, I'm really bad at pronunciation, Norfolk Makaton Tuition. Hopefully I've said that right. And this weekend chat's coming in. This weekend I'm teaching level 1 Makaton online. Okay, does anyone know what that is? Can you please? Okay, Kathy, what is it?
It's a form of communication for people that may have some form of learning difficulty. It's a marvelous thing to be able to know and to do. And actually, I met Karen this morning. She was on my meetup, so I'm really glad that she's here now this afternoon. So
I love that, and like you say, you learn something new every day. So I'm definitely going to look into that. Hello from rainy Haybridge Basin. I think I said that right. Hi. So this is Liz from Mojo Activewear. She was on the webinar yesterday, and she found out that there was an app called Mojo, which she's going to look into. She does funky activewear leggings to keep your mojo going. Love that. Right, there are some other people, but I'm conscious that we've only got an hour and you're going to want to hear from Emma and Kathy rather than myself. So quick introduction, for those of you who don't know, my name is Kayleen Harrington, and I'm the event manager for Norfolk Chambers of Commerce. Before we start, I wanted to let you know that the B2B exhibition will hopefully be taking place on Thursday, the 14th of October. The B2B exhibition is Norfolk's largest business-to-business exhibition. It's completely free to attend and attracts hundreds of businesses on the day. B2B is a highlight on the Norfolk events calendar, and I will pop a link to the event page in the chat shortly. So, the 3 things you need to know about SEO. Search engine optimization is a set of actions and processes that you need to take to increase the visibility of your website in the organic search results of major search engines. If you want your business to be visible online and appear on the first page of a Google search, I mean, who wants to be on page 2? You need to ensure that you understand the basics of SEO. So in this 60-minute webinar, Kathy Ennis and Emma Good, co-founders of 24 Degrees, will show you what are the key actions you can take to optimize your website, which tools are available for you to measure the online impact of your website, a couple of simple fixes you can implement on your website to increase its SEO. So during the presentation, there'll be live Q&As where Kathy and Emma will answer any of your burning questions. So please use the Q&A function if you have a question. Please don't worry if you put it in the chat, that's absolutely fine. Also, to let you know that we've also got Kirsty from our customer experience team joining us. She'll have her video switched off and be on mute because she's shadowing me so she can host some of our future events moving forward. So Kathy, over to you.
Thanks very much, Kayleen. I've been fascinated watching all of the people's messages coming up through here, and I just thought, Paul Young's on the call, but no, it's not, it's Paul Young's. But Paul, you're just as welcome as Paul Young, I must say, and maybe where you hang your hat is your home as well. So yeah, my name is Kathy Ennis, and my day job is I run a business called Little Piggy, which is I work as a mentor, a business mentor and a trainer. So I work with businesses, whether they're starting up or they need that extra push into growth, to help them either write a business plan, pull something together, make the one they've got already work for them, help them understand the processes and things that they need to do to really make the business start rocking and rolling for them. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. Added on to that, along with my colleague Emma, I now am the joint owner of a company called 24 Degrees, where together Emma and I pull together our expertise. So me on the business and the process side, and Emma very much on the digital marketing side, to help the businesses that we work with to be more business-like and to be more visible is the key thing to their customers and their potential customers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think SEO is an interesting thing. I think it's much misunderstood, and I think we want to take some of the mystery out of it today, with a few hacks, tips, tricks that you can do easily yourself. Yeah, there are some dark arts where you can go in the back and do interesting things, but we want to look at the things that you as an individual can do to make it work more effectively for you. And just to finish, Kaylee mentioned page 2 of Google. One of our running jokes, well, we think it's funny anyway, is that, you know, where's the best place to hide a dead body? Page 2 of Google, because nobody ever looks there. So this is where we come from, and that's the way we rock and roll in terms of our training as well. So over to you, Emma.
I was going to say, I'm loving your jokes this morning, Kathy.
It was the second coffee.
Afternoon. So my name is Emma Good. I have a digital marketing agency called 24 Fingers. So we help people that are all fingers and thumbs with their marketing, whether that's social media, Google pay-per-click, SEO, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, etc. I'm absolutely privileged to be with Norfolk second time in a week. I absolutely love it. I'm in Essex, and I know we've got some friends from Essex on the call today, but I feel like this is becoming my second home, which is fab. My part today is really to show you how to implement this stuff in your business. I would say SEO is an expensive beast if you want to go full scale, and I'm hoping today I can share some tips that won't cost you anything, that are easy to implement and that you'll see results from. Yeah,
absolutely. No, that's smashing. So I'll share the slides, Emma. Okay, so I'll just pull them up from here. So just in terms of what we do and the way we work, folks, if you've not been on one of our sessions before, is that we really like you to ask questions. You know, you can use the chat function for that. We'll talk a little bit and then we'll stop to pick any questions. So you don't have to wait until the end to ask your questions. Just keep them popping into the chat section and we'll pick up on them as we go forward. Okay, so let me just go to share screen. Oh, Kayleen, you need to let me share, please.
Sorry, we're too busy chatting in the rehearsal.
Here we go. That's
all done.
Thank you so much. And now I need to move this beast out of the way so that I can do slideshow.
While Kathy's doing that, I just wanted to share something that happened to me this morning. So I was talking to a client about a project they're launching, and they said to me, you know, we expect to be inundated with inquiries, and you know, the worst thing in the world for us would be to be on page 1 on Google within the first week. And it really made me smile, because you know, that would be a nice problem to have. Some of this stuff on SEO doesn't happen overnight. if you are going down an SEO strategy properly, I would expect results between kind of 3-6 months, a year, depending on how competitive your industry is. And yeah, this client thought that he'd be on page 1 on Google within days and weeks. And unfortunately, it doesn't quite happen like that, especially in his sector, which was tech and startups, which is a hugely crowded marketplace. And I had to let him down gently, but we're going to be doing a few things to help him on the way to page 1.
Yeah, and I think that's I suppose that's the thing to remember with all of this, is that there isn't a button that you can press or a switch that you can turn on that's automatically going to make things flow and change maybe the way that you want them to do. It's very much a gradual thing, and it's about building things on top of each other. And as Emma said, you can pay for things, and that is an option, but actually there are things that you can do yourself quite easily that are no cost, as long as you do them consistently. And it's that sort of area where we want to concentrate with you today. So right, so yes, that's us, and that's an email address that you can get us at if you want to follow up on anything after this session. That's our email address, so just pop us a line and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And so let's have a look at what is search engine optimization. Emma, do you want to pick up on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that have got Google Analytics loaded on your website, and if you haven't, but you've always wanted it, do drop Kathy and I a line and we can help you get that installed, because it's a jewel in your crown for understanding how people are interacting with you on your website. If you've got Google Analytics, you're going to see one of the lines in there for organic search. And what that means is people that have gone on Google, Bing, other search engines are available, and typed in something that relates to you, your business, or your industry and sector. So for me, somebody might type in digital marketing agency in Essex, and I would appear on Google. And that click to my website would appear in Google Analytics as an organic search result. And the idea is that if we don't want to be spending huge amounts on Google ads, and we don't want to be posting on social media 24/7, we want to increase the way that people find us. So when they do searches, we come up first. And there's a few different ways that we can encourage our own websites to come up first, which we're going to be talking about. But essentially, it's a traffic driver. It's a way of getting your website in front of the people that are searching for what you do, whether that's selling products, delivering services.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Emma's touched on this. I mean, do you want to carry on this?
Yeah, I'll carry on. So when we look at inbound marketing, i.e. not cold calling, radio advertising, TV advertising, we need to generate stuff in order for people to know about us. And there's a few different ways we can do it. We can pay Google to do it on our behalf, and we can run Google ad campaigns, pay-per-click you might have heard of. We can put stuff out on social media. We can do, what else can we do? We can do things, my brain's got Instagram advertising. We can do affiliate marketing. We can buy links on other websites. We can do display advertising. But actually, if we can get people to find us without having to pay Google, Facebook, Instagram, then that is the best option, because it means that long term, we've created a digital footprint. It means that we haven't got to rely on other platforms. So we haven't got to line Mark Zuckerberg's pocket, and we're in control. So I 100% know there's a direct correlation between how much blogging I do, how much social media activity I do, how many guest blogs I write, how many events I speak to the amount of search results I get. So when I look into my Google Analytics, if I did something like this today, I would know that I get a spike in the amount of people that A, find me, and then B, come onto my website. And that doesn't go away. As we all know, when it's on the web, it's on there forever. So I've built up a legacy now of when you search my name, Emma Good, when you search 24 Fingers, we will come up for certain phrases, and that could be social media, it could be social media training, for example. So what I've done, I've built up my IP, if you like, on the web, And I've basically told Google that whenever somebody searches for something that I can deliver, please show me first. And I've managed that in certain areas. I haven't managed it for the whole of England, because that would be a big order. But in my sector, in my target audience, and in my location, we rank, and that hasn't cost me anything apart from time. So that's like nirvana.
Yeah, and I think when we think about search engine optimization, it isn't one thing. As I say, it's not like pressing a button and something happens. It is a combination. It is a combination of things. And I think also, and we talk about Google a lot, and basically it's because it is the biggest search engine there is. And some people do use others, but very few use others. And I think that where they're actually attempting to almost even the playing field, if you will, is that they know that there are some companies out there that have budgets and have big budgets in order to put that behind, say, pay-per-click advertising, as Emma said, things like Facebook advertising, LinkedIn, TV, radio, whatever it might be. There are companies out there that can afford that, but the vast majority of companies can't. So they attempt to make it possible for you to put strategies into your business that can help you get your stuff in front of people without having to put big bucks behind it. And that's where this whole organic stuff comes in. And that's where the importance of using things like analytics to check what's happening. And if you didn't come to our thing on the Google Toolkit, I think it was last week, goodness knows it's lockdown. If you didn't come to that, I know the recording is there, and one of the things that Emma went into in quite a lot of detail was Google Analytics, so go and check that out. If you're not checking what's happening, it's likely you could be missing a trick. So really what we're looking at in terms of from our perspective, in terms of SEO, before you start putting your hand in your pocket to pay for ads, think more strategically about your business and the messaging that you want to get out there. Because if you look at the stats, you know, fewer than 3% of people who go onto a search click the paid for advertising. It's okay, the 3% that do, it's because they've gone on there because they're looking to buy something. I was on looking at sheds yesterday, believe it or not, because I want to buy a shed. So I looked at the ads, but if I was looking for something else, I wouldn't be looking at those because I'm not there to buy. The vast majority of people aren't. So this is where we have to actually look at putting regular stuff out that is of interest to our audience, that makes them engage with us, makes them like us, and makes them want to come back. Okay.
Thanks, Kathy. And I was going to say, actually, another anecdote. Back in 2017, I wrote a blog about Mental Health Awareness Week. What are we now, 2021? 4 years later, that still ranks on page 1 for that search. So while it might be a short-term investment of your time, the rewards will be there for you long-term.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have that one. There's a blog I wrote about how and when to ask a customer for payment. That obviously rings.
That struck a nerve.
And yeah, so that one still ranks pretty high. And so this is the kind of stuff, this is what we might call legacy content. It's the stuff that you write it and it just builds and builds and builds over time, because that's the kind of stuff that people are looking for. And I think you said, Emma, about your Mental Health Awareness Week 1, because remember, you can do this, folks, is you're going to rework it so that it's more current.
Yeah. So we'll rewrite that website, and in the title and in the SEO description, we'll call that Mental Health Awareness Week 2021, and we'll refresh that every year, so we just continue to rank. Elizabeth, Elizabeth in chat asked a great question. How do you register on the other search engines? So you can't register on them, they will find you. So if you're writing relevant content that they think is worthy of being shown in the search results, they'll come and find you. And today's session is about how to tell the search engines what to rank you for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the, I mean, Google Analytics is something that you can tie to your website by showing ownership of that site. But actually, this is what we mean, is that the the rest of the stuff is that organic stuff. If you know, Claire from Floral and Balloon Designs, hello Claire, the last time we actually saw face to face was at the Norfolk show in 2019. She was saying, you know, she's busy with Mother's Day. You know, if somebody's going on looking on, say, Bing for balloons for my mum for Mother's Day Norfolk, Claire is likely to come up, because that's what she does. So it's not a question of registering, it's a question of feeding your audience the information that they actually want and need. Okay, so yeah, keep the questions coming, folks. More than happy to answer those. So if we go on to the next bit, which is about content. And sorry, I made the slides and I just cut and paste stuff off the back end of my own website. So not saying that this is brilliant, but I just wanted to get across regularity as much as anything.
Do you want me to take this one on, Kathy?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as Kathy said in her title, Google is a hungry beast. It needs to see that you're still alive and functioning and doing what you do in your business. It wants to see that your content is being updated regularly. So what it does, it sends out bots to crawl the universe, crawl the web, and see who's written new stuff. And when it sees that you've written a new blog and you've included certain keywords and phrases, it thinks, oh, okay, I'm going to add that to my index for that particular topic. So we write every week a blog about social media trends and how the algorithms change, for example. So we'll include keyword Instagram, Twitter. It will go and crawl, it will go and find that we've written a blog about Instagram and add it to the Instagram collection, just like you would do in a physical library. It's basically a storage area. And every time somebody searches in Instagram, it will then decide who to show on page 1, who to show on page 100. I personally blog every week. I know Kathy does too. If you can get into the habit and the schedule and the regularity of blogging weekly, it means that all your social media is covered for a month. It means that Google will love you, and it means that you've got something new and exciting to talk to your customers about and your prospect customers. Monthly, yeah, fine. Quarterly and yearly, I'll be frank, you're going to be losing rankings if you do it that infrequently. If you're struggling with blog inspiration, come and talk to Kathy and I. We've got lots of tools and hacks about how to find things to talk about, some of which we're going to be mentioning today. But ideally, you want to be writing new content every week. Now, it doesn't have to be War and Peace either. So a starting point for a blog could be as little as 350 words. And that's probably about 5 long paragraphs. Ideally, you want to kind of get 500 and above. But if you're really, really stuck, 350 is enough to show Google that you've written new content. And if you put in the right keywords, it will do a job for you. It won't do the full job for you, but it will certainly give Google a signal that you're putting new stuff up and that you deserve to be reviewed for ranking. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, Emma mentioned the bots that come out, and you know, basically they index and then re-index the sites on a regular basis. And I think they're saying at the moment it takes about 3 weeks for the bots to get around the whole of the internet. And I think if you think about the last stat I saw was that there are 50,000 new websites every day. You can see that, again, it's not something that's going to happen instantaneously. And what those bots are looking for is they're looking for something new. So if they come to your website and it's all exactly the same as it was when they were there the last time, they'll just skirt straight over it and go to the next place. So if they're not reviewing and if they're not re-indexing your site for new content, that's when things start to slip. So you need to make sure that the content on your pages is fit for purpose, using the right keywords and things like that. But as Emma said, it's the regular content that is the thing that will make the biggest difference, because the bots will see the website as a living thing. They'll see it as something that is nurtured and cared for. So getting that regularity in there is quite crucial. And I would say that if you don't have a blog on your website at the moment, that would be one of the first things I would get you to do. We do know some businesses who have a blog that's external to their website, the first thing that I would do is get that actually all migrated into your website and use that regularly. One little thing I would say is that some businesses are tempted to call their blog news. It's only news if it's absolutely current. So if you're posting on there every day or maybe twice a day, it may be news. But if it's every week or once a month, it definitely isn't news. So try and think about something else to call it. That's just my thoughts on that. But yeah, I only put this on here to show that my own discipline around my own stuff is based on my blog. If I get my blog onto my website every week, I know I've got my content for my other social spaces. So I know that I've got stuff for my regular email that I send out to my email list. I know I've got stuff that I can share in my social platforms, which is good, again, in the search engine side of things. But it's also that discipline of making sure that there's something relevant on my website that will give those search engine bots something to look at. So if you don't do anything else, get the whole blogging thing going, folks. And as Emma said, if you've got any problems with that, just give us a shout out and we'll give you as much help as we possibly can. Have we got any questions from there, Emma?
We had a question from Richard. Are there any particular blog tools that are more effective from an SEO perspective? I know some use native blogs direct from Wix, others have third-party blog tools on the site. I hope that makes sense. Yes, it absolutely makes sense. Where possible, you want to be hosting your own blog on your own website so that you can get the SEO, what's called juice. It means that Google will associate all that good stuff with your website rather than another domain. And it means that your two domains, i.e. blog.emmagood compared to emmagood.com, we're not fighting against each other. So where possible, put your blog on your website. Kathy and I had an example the other day that horrified us. So a life coach came to us. She's actually a divorce coach and she specialises in helping people transition from married life to divorce. And she said to me, I want to get a blog on blog site. And I said, okay, well, I can help you. She said, yeah, I've got a website and now I need a blog site. And I said, well, no, I don't think you do. I think you just need one thing. So she gave me her logins and she'd paid a company to create a website for her. And because she'd phrased a question in that way, she then wanted to pay somebody else to create a blog site. And I said, oh, no, don't give us any money. Let's just put a blog section on your existing website. So we saved her hundreds of pounds. And the benefit is that she gets the SEO value. She's only got one site to administer. It's only one site to host. But this other company would have quite happily taken her money for a blog site, taken her money for a website, and you only need one thing, only one property, and you just put everything on there. Hope that answers.
I think there's a question about, should we just call it blog then? Yeah. But Google knows what that word means.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Claire said, if I create my own blog content once a month and then brought in guest blogs during the month too, would that work the same as creating my own content more effective? Yes, it would. If you've got other people to write content for you and you host it on their website, that's absolutely fine. There's only one consideration there. Don't have too many links that send people away from your website. So if you're doing a guest blog and let's just say life coach, you were writing a blog about setting January, for example, and you promised to give that other person a link from your site to theirs, don't put the link against their name for the words life coaching, because that way they're going to get the SEO value rather than you. So there's ways around that, and I can happily explain that after. So just make sure that you're retaining the value when you're doing guest blogs. But in essence, if someone else writes it or you write it and you host it on your website, that will help with the regularity, that will help with the frequency. Just make sure that you don't give all the good stuff away from an SEO technical point of view.
I'll pick up on Martha's point here as well. And Martha, there's a couple of things in the message that you sent about, you post regularly on LinkedIn and Facebook, etc. And what I would say is I would think about it turning that the other way up. So rather than thinking about posting onto Facebook and LinkedIn 3 times a week, etc., I would actually use the blog as the content for the posts that go out into LinkedIn and Facebook. So I'd write the blog, and as Emma said, you know, if you write 500 words, you've got 5 really stonking paragraphs there. Each one of those paragraphs can form your content for your social for 5 days in the following week. So you can just top and tail it a little bit. From that, then you can actually do a signposting back to your site. So what's happening is that you're getting the value of the blog on your website, and you're getting the value of posting out onto Facebook and LinkedIn. And I think the second thing I want to put into there is that your website and your blog you own. It's an asset in your business. It's part of your intellectual property. The same cannot be said for the content that you share on social media sites. So yes, you can share your stuff out, and it can contribute towards people coming to your website and giving you a bit more of a boost in your SEO. But you don't own that stuff. Those sites own that stuff. So, you know, I'm all for business owners having ownership of their own collateral. Okay, so if I go back to the slides.
Can I answer a question from Jim?
Yeah, sorry, I'll come back to that.
So, does a blog need to be in written form, or will a podcast work? So Kathy can talk to you about podcasts, but I'd 100% suggest embedding your podcast in a written blog to make maximum use of that one piece of content. So have some words around it, ideally 350, then embed your podcast in the middle of the blog, and then do a call to action at the bottom.
I can show you that actually, if you'd like to see it. So let me just open my website, and I'll show you what I do. I started a blog, podcast actually. My 3rd episode should be this week. So basically my podcast sits within my blog. If I'm just going to pop into the edit section here, because I think podcasts are actually a really, really good way of seeing how this actually works. So because you can take the transcript of what you've said and use that as the written content. So if I just share my screen here. Okay. So this is the 1st episode of my podcast, and so what I've done here is this is this bit here, this audio line here is actually where you can just listen to it. This bit here is where I've uploaded that onto YouTube, so it works as a video as well, and I've been able to embed that into there. And then this is the transcript of what I actually say in that podcast. So this is working in the same way in terms of SEO content, in terms of blog type content on the website. So that's the way I would look at doing that. Okay, hopefully that shows you a good way around for doing that. And so let's just go into metadata.
Do this. Some of you will have on your website something called a Yoast plugin, and it's free, and it's really good to know in a rudimentary way how good your SEO is from a Google point of view. There's a free version, there's a paid for version. I use the free actually, and it's fine. If you don't have that plugin on your website, again, ask the people that have designed your website to install it, or give us a shout if you need a hand. What the Yoast plugin does is it makes sure that you've got a few different signals to Google within each page or blog of your website. So it tells Google the keyword that you want to rank for. So in this particular blog that Kathy did around business mindset, she used a key phrase called business mindset. So what she was hoping there is every time somebody's searching Google for business mindset, Kathy's blog would come up. That tells Google what index that blog should appear in, i.e. what shelf in the library that one should be stored in. If we go down, we've got an SEO title. So you can see here in the middle, Kathy's title was Your Business Mindset is Essential for Successful Growth. So again, that shows Google what the blog is about. It shows the topic, but most importantly, at the beginning, she's got a business mindset. We want to make life easy for Google. Google don't want to work too hard for this stuff. So the easier we can make it, and the more clear and more direct we can show Google what we want to be ranking for, the better. So she's got business mindset here in the title. She's got business mindset in the key phrase. Then slug. So the slug is your www. So that would have been www.littlepiggy.ltd/your business mindset. Again, she's put business mindset at the top, at the beginning, rather than the end. So brownie points to Kathy. And then here we've got meta description. So when we do a Google search, you'll get the title of a blog or page, and then you'll get a little paragraph of descriptive copy that tells you a little bit more about the page. And then if you like the look of it, you'll click it. And if you don't, you'll keep scrolling down. The metadata, the meta description is another way of showing Google what shelf that blog should be on in the library, what index it be filed under. So again, Kathy's got business mindset in the meta description. Most importantly though, what she's done here, she's made sure that she hasn't written so much copy that you can't see the full description. She's got 2 sentences here. If you do overtype, it will cut off, and you'll see really, really quickly that it cuts off. Make sure, I can't remember what the character limit is, but there is a character limit from a Google point of view. Just make sure that you're in it. But something like the Yoast plugin will help you do that, because if you go too far, it will show you anyway. The other thing that I know Kathy will have done here is, this is the picture that will appear on the Google search results. Should have done something called alt text as well. So that's to help people with accessibility issues understand what that blog is for. Also, it helps Google understand what the blog is for. So that's 4 different areas where she's put in the keywords. It's key phrase, title, slug, and meta description. And the plugin that I mentioned, Sue, was called Yoast. I'll put it in the chat shortly, but it's priceless. I use it constantly on my websites.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that I've shown it here as an example on a blog that I wrote, but you can use this plugin, and actually there are others. I mean, there are quite a few out there that you can use, but you can use this on each of your pages as well. So, and what it does is it gives you the route map to make sure that you're getting it as correct as possible. So I've got a little green smiley face down there. If it didn't quite like what I'd done, I'd have a more of an amber with a straight line mouth, and then, or it'd be red with a downturn mouth, because it wasn't right. So it helps you as much as it possibly can. I like Yoast as well, and their website is actually really good, because it writes about on there how to structure your titles, even your page titles for the pages within your website. There are ways of actually making sure that you have the key phrase or keyword for that page in the right place in the title framework. It will tell you whether the key phrase appears enough times in the copy for Google to be able to say, this piece of writing is about this topic. That means I can index it at that, and as Emma said, I can put it on that shelf in the library. So these tools are there to actually make it as easy as possible for you not to make mistakes. And I know that basically all of the main platforms, we work on WordPress, Emma and I, but I know there are people out there that have maybe Squarespace or Wix or various things like that. They all have their options or ability to use these kinds of things within the website, which means that you can make sure not only your blogs but your pages are actually showcasing what that page is really about. And this is where sometimes businesses can get into problems, because the search engines are looking at their sites, but they don't really know what the website's about, because these clarification tools haven't been used to make it as clear as possible. Okay.
So Emma says she's got the plugin, but she's not quite sure how to view it like that. So Emma, if you scroll down to the bottom of your page or your blog, it might look slightly different to Kathy's screen, but the green system, it will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you if you are having problems, as we keep saying, just contact us, because we'd be more than happy to set you on the right path. Very much so. But I think that the metadata side of it is the most forgotten part of websites. And I wouldn't necessarily expect a web developer to have the knowledge, the in-depth knowledge of all of this. And I think this is something to be aware of. You know, web developers, they develop fantastic websites, but they're not necessarily SEO specialists, and they may be able to give you some help and guidance. But if you're relying on them to be the people to sort of set your SEO, unless you give them the information, unless you give them the tools, they may not be the right people to do it for you either. So take a little bit of control of that is what I'd recommend.
So Julie just asked a question. She has a Shopify website and is wondering how to use Yoast. So you can't use Yoast on Shopify, but I think, if I'm right, that each page has got an area for SEO optimization within Shopify anyway. They just don't give you the plugin, but it's the same scenario of what's your key phrase, what's your title, what's your slug, and what's your meta description.
Yeah, I think, having seen the back end of a couple of Shopify websites, again, I think it sits down the bottom of the page. So, and also what you might want to do, and this applies to everybody who are sort of looking in the back end of their website into the dashboard or anything. Sometimes the way you actually display your pages in the back, there may be like a toggle option where you can toggle it to like the developer side, you know, or the owner side rather than the viewer side, so that you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, yeah, Yoast does rhyme with toast, and I always say it's toast with a Y. So yeah, that's very much. Okay. So,
Thanks.
okay, so housekeeping. So this is where we come into double checking everything. And again, we covered this in a bit more detail in the Google Toolkit session last week, didn't we? So yeah, go off and have a look at that recording, folks.
So Google Search Console, Google, like we said last week, you know, they offer so many different tools. Obviously, all this data is only as good as what you do with it after, but Google Search Console is particularly good for people that have websites. Like I said at the beginning of the session, Google's looking for a few things. It's looking for the content on your website. It's looking for regular stuff. It's looking for how good your website appears on a mobile. So please do, after this session, if I can give you one bit of homework, it's to go and check your website on a mobile. Google ranks sites on mobile now rather than desktop. So if your website isn't running very well on a mobile, you're going to get downgraded. So you'll appear less frequently and you won't appear on page one if your website isn't running on mobile very well. It basically does that to make everybody's user experience the best possible well it can be. So they rank that really, really highly. And the next thing they rank is how effective your website is in terms of loading speed, so how quickly it loads, whether there's any broken links, whether there's any broken images, and how secure your website is. So again, please go and check. If you've got the padlock on your website, it means that you've got a secure site, and that'll be on the far left in the top corner. If you don't see HTTPS and a padlock on your website, come and give Kathy and I a shout, because that is absolutely crucial now from a Google point of view. Sites that aren't secure nowadays just won't rank end of. So do make sure that you have got a security certificate on your website, how quickly your website is loading, and whether you've got any broken links. And the best way to check all of that stuff is installing something called Google Search Console onto your website. And again, your good web developers will know all about this kind of stuff and they can install it for you. And what that means is that you're allowing Google to check your site for housekeeping. It will go through and do those regular checks, and it's going to tell you whether you've got any broken images, whether you've got any broken pages, whether you're missing any images, whether your site doesn't appear well on mobile. And Kathy and I get regular updates on our email to say, oh look, you know, you've added this plugin, you might want to do X, Y, Z particularly good if you're doing a website refresh. I'm going to be doing one shortly, and I know Kathy did one a few months ago. It's basically a safety net. It's going to be checking all this stuff on your behalf, and then with this information you can give it to your web developer, or you can do it yourself and check the things that it's found. And when we keep Google happy, we've got a much better chance of ranking.
Yeah, and I think that Emma picked up on so many things there, and I think that, you know, what I would sort of, my tuppenny halfpenny worth throwing in there is that with everything that we're doing online, there is a move towards think mobile first. So Facebook went this way well over 18 months ago. Now Google is very much in this sphere as well, and the reason for that is that the vast majority of internet interactivity happens on a mobile device. So tablets, they're not so much, and desktops, yeah, they're still important, but not as important as a mobile phone. So you do have to make sure that your website works well on a mobile phone. The speed load will be different on a desktop than it will be on a mobile, but they're looking for good speed load. And there are a couple of things that to be aware of that can influence that. One of them is the images that you use. Always make sure that you use JPEG versions of images on your website and not PNGs. PNGs are they're too data rich, they're too heavy, they're too big and unwieldy. And actually, when I was doing this, I went into my Google Search Console and had a look at my speed rates. And when I was doing the work on my website over Christmas, I put some new images in, and I put them in as placeholders. Yeah, this is how I rock. I put them in as placeholders and haven't been back in and changed them, which I must do, but I put in the PNG versions of the placeholders, and they're slowing my site down. So I know my work over the weekend is actually going to be to go and actually convert those images into JPEGs and re-upload them and put them on to help with that. So I think that's a crucial thing. The other thing to consider, and this again gives brownie points, yes or no, is the size of the font and the readability of the text. So if you are using a font on your site that may be like a scripted font, you know, it might be your brand font. If it's not really legible, say for example in headlines and titles and things like that, you can get a little bit of downgrading because it's not so easily readable. If your fonts are too small, so I don't have anything less than a 16-point font on my site, because anything other than that, it will look too small on a mobile device. And the other thing, and this is slightly technical, I know maybe, but there's something you put on a website which is called padding, and that's the space that you leave around, say, an image or around text on a page. Now, one of the things that can happen if your padding, particularly the left and the right hand side padding, doesn't give you enough margin, it can mean that your text wraps around the screen on a mobile phone, and you can get marked down for that. So it's really a good idea, if you've got a nice friendly web developer who's doing some work for you, is to have a word with it. Look at your phone, check your website on your phone. If you're seeing any things you think actually the image needs to come up before the title, or the title needs to come up before the image, or the font looks really small, or it's wrapping around the sides of the phones, or it's taking a little bit of a time to load on my phone, go and have a word with them, because these kinds of things can be impacting on Google's willingness to put your content in front of other people. So yeah, these are things we can manage ourselves. These are things that we don't necessarily have to pay mega bucks for, which paid for SEO work can turn out to be pretty expensive.
I was just thinking of one of our mutual clients, Kathy, who came to us a few months ago and said, you know, my website's loading really slowly, and it was 6 seconds, which, you know, is 6 seconds, but who's got 6 seconds to wait for a website to load? And after the work that we did in terms of compressing pictures and getting everything all sorted, that came down to 2 seconds. So I should imagine that what's called the bounce rate, i.e. people coming to her website and then bouncing off straight away, would have been dramatically improved purely because of that 4-second saving. Nigel asked a question about the ratio of people viewing on a desktop compared to mobile, and wondered whether there was a specific ratio for B2B websites. To be honest, I would say that's more about demographics than sector. You can check that stuff in your Google Analytics. It's going to show you the proportion of desktop to mobile. For me personally, I've got a slightly higher desktop audience because of my target audience. They're more desktop people, but for things like fashion brands, their websites, I should imagine that's going to be like 90% mobile. So it really does depend on your target audience, but do go into Google Analytics and check where your traffic is coming from and what they're viewing on. All of that stuff as well can be then loaded into your Facebook advertising campaigns or your Google campaigns. So I know, for example, that my target audience are 40 upwards, living in home counties, probably married, probably with children, maybe not university educated. So I can plug all that demographic data that I get from Google into my Facebook campaign. So I'm really spending my money effectively. I don't want to be targeting 18-year-olds on my work. They know all of it. I want to be targeting that core audience, and my Google Analytics is going to either confirm or deny those stats, in which case I take the data and then plug it into all the other spaces.
Yeah, and I would just say design for mobile, and then if you do that, you don't need to worry about the desktop because it takes care of itself.
Yeah.
So it's very much around, if it works well there, it will work well everywhere. So that would be my main thing to say on that. So right, so if we go back to there, and I think really that's we just wanted to say if there are any more questions, folks, anything that we've covered, or anything that we've had as an aside that you want to ask us a question about, we're more than happy to take those. And I know that Elizabeth has asked where you can find last week's recording. I think Kayleen would probably, maybe Kayleen could add that as a link in the follow-up email when the link to this recording goes out. Maybe that would be the best way.
And I was going to say, actually, in Kayleen's email, you're going to see a free resource kit from today's session. So we'll pop that in. We'll also put in Kathy and I offer complimentary strategy sessions. So if all of this stuff has got you either excited or nervous, either way, book in with us and we can kind of go through any questions that are specific to your business, because obviously in these sessions we're trying to cover the widest base possible, but do grab one of those sessions if you would like to. Yeah,
and I think our next chamber session is actually on the 24th of March, and it's on pay-per-click. So what we've tried to do by doing the toolkit last week, by doing SEO today, and then pay-per-click, is to give people a little bit of a journey, a little bit of a story to follow in terms of those. So you know that would be I think that's an afternoon one as well. So that would be that would be great if you could come along to that. I think we've also got, if I just Alison asked how often should you be checking your Google Analytics? Brilliant question. I would recommend weekly and definitely monthly. With the weekly stuff, you can make changes and you can react to stuff, but you might want to leave it a month so you've got kind of statistically valid data. Depends how much traffic your website's getting. If you've got thousands of people going every day, then weekly data would be great to check and then refine on your website. But if you're a mere mortal like me, you might want to check this stuff monthly. Again, grab your Google Analytics stats, grab your social media stats and look at the two and see what's happening. I know, for example, my Google Analytics show a spike on a Friday afternoon. That's because I send out my email newsletter on a Friday afternoon and with tips and hints about social medias. There's, again, direct correlation. And you should start to see patterns on all this data. That's what you're looking for, that you can make sure that every marketing activity ties in, supplements and improves the other. Yeah, and I think this is mentoring me coming out is that what we should be doing as business people. And, you know, I know it's a cliche and I know it's trite, the whole thing about working on your business rather than in your business, but it's a cliche because cliches tend to be based in truth. And that what we all need to be doing is being disciplined with ourselves and actually saying, this is the time in my week where I do X, whatever X may be. So for me, I like to keep Friday afternoons as clear as possible, because that's when I tend to do my blog. That's when I tend to check all my stats. That's when I tend to just have a quick look at my financials, all of those kinds of stuff. Sometimes Friday afternoons turn into Friday evenings as well. But as long as I've got all of those real major gubbins done Friday night, it means that Saturday and Sunday I can choose to work, do business, or I can choose to paint a table, which is what I like doing at weekends, my furniture painting. So
it's totally opposite. I'd never do that on a Friday afternoon.
But I think it is this, you know, and I talk to people about the 80-20 split in terms of what we're doing. And as business owners, we do need to attempt to put 20% of our weekly activity based on actually running the business and doing the business things, rather than just delivery of that business. So in a 5-day week, you're looking at 1 day a week. So that might be scary to some.
I'm going to answer Emma's question. Emma shares that her readability score is read on some pages on WordPress. I'm guessing you've got the Yoast plugin in there, but she can't see why. So Emma, I just want to check whether that's readability or the SEO. With readability, they use something called the Flash test, and you know, sometimes I get red and orange on readability, and we're trained journalists, so I know that it's not difficult to read. So I'd be interested to know whether it's red for the SEO or red for readability. If it's red for readability, if it reads well and it reads normally and you haven't stuffed keywords in there, genuinely I wouldn't worry about it. Is readability, yeah. I have that sometimes, and I 100% know my stuff's well written because, like I say, 25 years in publishing, I should be able to write a blog. They've got some very funny grammar. It's normally American grammar as well, so don't worry too much. I'd concentrate more on getting the green for SEO. That's going to serve you better than worrying about the red. Hope that puts your mind at rest.
Yeah, and I think if you actually click on the little downward arrow beside the little red space in the bottom in the Yoast section, it will actually tell you what it's marking you down for. And there's a little eye symbol beside it. And if you hit the eye, what it does in the text on the blog in the back end that you've written, it turns it purple. So you can actually see where it's telling you. And one of the things I find, you can probably tell from the way I talk, because I write the way I talk, is it doesn't like the length of my sentences. So I tend to be a bit like James Joyce, and it all sort of flows into one thing, and there may be dots and an exclamation mark and something like that. Total antithesis to Emma, very straightforward, you know. And there, so I get a lot of regs in my readability as well. So, and sometimes I think, oh, I'll make it more readable, but other times, as long as my SEO bit is green, I know that Google likes it. And if people don't like the way I write, they probably won't like the way that I talk to them either. So, you know, that's a bit of a test in that sense.
So Elizabeth Smith asked, do we use Google keyword search? I don't seem to be able to get access to it. So when Google invented pay-per-click, they hid all of the search queries that people were finding you for. So you used to be able to access and understand what searches you were ranking for. Now they don't give you that good stuff because you have to pay for it. But there are ways around that. So if you install Google Search Console, you'll actually get a list of what people are searching for when they find you. You won't get it all. Google pay-per-click will help you with that. But Google Search Console will be enough for you to understand how people are finding you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really useful. I use it all of the time. It's the thing that I use to actually determine what blogs I'm going to write. I don't come up with the brilliant ideas. I let Google tell me what people are looking for, and then I write a blog about it. So, you know, that's my way of using Google to help me with my stuff. Yeah. Anything else from anybody? Yeah, I can see that, Elizabeth. Yeah, good on you. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Claire. That's great.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, Craig, I do that yourself so that you've got control, because when we move suppliers or if anything happens, you'd want to make sure that you've got your own Google Analytics and Google Search control under your personal Gmail address. Just a lot safer. And as Kathy always tells me, we've got a lot of IP in our businesses to make sure it's under our control rather than anybody else's.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's yours and it's on your website, you need to own it, because when you become a multimillionaire and somebody wants to buy your brand, part of what they buy from you is your website and everything that's on it. So yeah, definitely, it's an asset in your business. Right, so I think, well, that's what we wanted to cover today. I'll just do one quick more screen share just to let people know, just as I said, that's the link that you can use, but obviously you're going to get a copy of these slides, so you'll see that when that comes through. These are these are 4 things that we've got coming up in the next few weeks that you might be interested in. And basically just to say thanks very much for coming along today. And we hope that that's helped you in some way be a little bit more aware of how you can take simple steps to make your SEO a bit more your friend rather than your enemy. And then when
without paying.
Yeah, exactly. if and when you need to, that's when you start considering the paid side of stuff. But there is stuff that you can do yourself now. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us. I popped a link to the survey in the chat, so feel free to please fill it in, as we obviously get your recommendations to help shape the event plan. So yeah, thank you so much. Also, bear with me. I need to have holiday next week. It's what I'm being told. So I'm going to get to the recordings as soon as I can. So I'll share with you the presentation, but the recording will probably be shared in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, just please bear with me. Unlike Kathy and Emma, I don't like to work at the weekends because I tend to work longer Monday to Fridays if I need to. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. I'll also include in there a link to the other, the pay-per-click webinar that Kathy and Emma are kindly doing with us as well. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, have a lovely week, and fingers crossed we will see you again. I say see, hopefully see you again soon, and potentially at face-to-face events soon. Bye everyone.